Hey everybody, it's Brandon. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining me again. I hope you are having a wonderful new year. Welcome to 2021. I hope you're settling in nicely. I kind of seem to be like a pessimist in regard to the new year because I feel like it's just another day. I mean, we use these numbers to measure time and there's really no difference between 11:59 p.m. at New Year's Eve versus 12 a.m. New Year's Day. I mean, it's just a way we measure time. Nothing's gonna change. We tend to put a lot of emphasis on the years, so I just feel like I'm really pessimistic on that. Like, I'm not really a celebratory person in regard to New Year. But today I wanted to discuss a topic that I'm really excited about because there's a lot of emerging research coming out about it, and it's in regard to blue light. We know a lot about UV and UV exposure and how that can affect the skin, but we really don't know a lot about how light from our devices, like our televisions, our smartphones, our tablets, our computers, we don't really know the longitudinal effects of that on our skin, but there's a lot of research coming out showing that there may be detrimental effects to collagen and carotenoids and antioxidant systems within our skin. And it's really interesting to know a correlation between UV exposure and this blue light that we are exposed to every single day. So basically, I'm going to really go over what is blue light, where does it come from, how can you recognize it, and what does it do to the skin, as well as potential solutions to blue light and, how to potentially combat the effects that it has on our skin. And I'll also be doing a quick review of a skincare product I was actually gifted this year, or actually last year, technically, at Christmas. My sister gave this to me. It came in her BoxyCharm. It was the Mudmasky Blue Light Protection Mask. It says it helps to shield harmful, high energy, visible blue light from your laptops and your tablets. So I'm really curious to look into the ingredients of this later in the video and see if there really is any research to back it up. But before I begin, please hit the like button down below. It really helps my channel grow and reach more people, and I really appreciate it. And definitely subscribe as well. Stick around, join this community. I put out videos, skincare videos every other day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, as well as a weekend vlog on Sundays. So I'd love to have you here. I'd love to discuss new products and skincare topics, as well as the research surrounding different skincare topics. And I would love to have you here. So what is blue light? Blue light is a broader wavelength of visible light, the light that we can see, in contrast to UV. UV radiation is invisible. Like I said previously, we can't see that. Blue light, generally speaking, is between 400 to about 490 nanometers. It may run longer, but this is just the general numbers that I could find reported in the literature. And blue light can be used at therapeutic doses for certain skin conditions, but it's often used at very short dose intervals. So we don't have that long-term exposure that we do. We're not studying that in the research that we have. We're not looking at the long-term exposure of blue light from our computer screens, our television sets, our indoor fluorescent lights. All of these electronics that we're exposed to pretty much our entire waking day is emitting blue light, and our skin is being exposed to that blue light, that visible form of light. And up until now, we really haven't done a ton of research on blue light and how it affects the skin, but there's an increasing number of studies that are coming out that are looking at the effects of blue light exposure, not only in vitro, so on human skin cells, but also on in vivo, so on actual human skin. In comparison to blue light, we know we have very good, robust evidence, long-term evidence supporting the fact that UV, ultraviolet radiation from the sun, is the #1 contributor to the visible signs of skin aging. It contributes up to 80 to 90% of skin aging, depending upon the paper that you read. The Earth is dependent upon solar radiation, but solar radiation can cause damage to the skin with increasing exposure, duration of exposure, as well as intensity of exposure. Now, despite UV being a really harmful component out in our environment that contributes to skin aging as well as skin cancer, it accounts for approximately only 5% of the solar radiation that we receive here on Earth. Or I should say it accounts for about 5% of the solar spectrum that we experience. Now, UV is invisible. We can't see ultraviolet radiation, but we see its effects in the skin, in skin conditions, and skin aging, and skin cancers and melanomas. These are what occur in response to, again, increasing duration and exposure and intensity of UV exposure. So it's generally well established that cellular damage to the skin, particularly induced by UVA, which is a band of the UV spectrum that we receive. We receive both UVA and UVB. UVA is the radiation that, again, we can't see, but it contributes to skin aging, whereas UVB is more so in line with producing skin sunburns as well as contributing to melanomas. Cellular damage, sorry, it was hard for me to say that word. Cellular damage, particularly induced by UVA radiation, is mediated through the production of reactive oxygen species, or ROS, which are free radicals that are produced in our skin whenever we're exposed to this UV. But there has been increasing concern over the past couple of decades, really, that high energy visible light, or HEV, things from like our overhead fluorescents that we are under at school and at work, not 24/7, but throughout the whole day, as well as when we come home and we're exposed to high intensity, high energy visible light from our overhead lights, like the ones I have here in the kitchen, as well as the ambient blue light that is emanated from our computer screens and our television sets and our phones. There's increasing concern that this ambient high energy visible light may also contribute to the visible signs of skin aging. Now, the visible spectrum is between 400 to 760 nanometers, and this visible blue light has long been held as something that's fairly harmless and benign, but really about 50% of the solar radiation that reaches the Earth is in the form of visible light, blue light. The sun is the primary source of blue light. Blue light, again, is just visible light that we can see, that it comes from, again, our computer screens, our tablets, our phones, our indoor lighting that we're exposed to almost 24/7. And if you're falling asleep with the TV on or with lights on, you're definitely going to be exposed to certain wavelengths of blue light that, again, there's increasing concern that is contributing to skin aging as well as degradation of collagen. In fact, there's increasing concern among many scientists across the globe that visible light and blue light from our computer screens and our phones and our tablets and our televisions, that we have this light that we're experiencing. We have this visible light from overhead fluorescent lamps at school and at work, and then we come home and we sit in front of our television sets and we get on our phone and we maybe get on our computer and browse around and shop and do whatever. We're experiencing all this exposure that many scientists are worried might be, in addition to the UV that we're experiencing, might be increasing the production of free radicals as well as ROS, or again, the reactive oxygen species within our skin. And in particular, many scientists are worried that this visible light, this blue light, may also be contributing to DNA damage, similar to the effects that UV has on the skin. And we already know that visible light, blue light in particular, it has detrimental effects long-term on ocular tissues, so tissues in the eyes. That's why a lot of times you see blue light protective glasses that people can wear in front of their computer screens to help reduce eye strain and help reduce the harmful effects that blue light has on the eyes. If it has negative effects on the eyes, you have to wonder what other effects it may have on other organs or tissues, particularly, the skin, which is exposed to everything, which is exposed to UV and visible light and pollutants in the air, and, especially our neck and our face. We have to really wonder, what is this light exposure? What are the effects that it's having on our skin? And again, how do we fight it? There was a study in 2019, so very recently, showing that ambient high energy visible light, blue light, in the range between 400 to 500 nanometers produced ROS, reactive oxygen species, in human fibroblast cells. So it was an in vitro study, but it definitely provides more insight into the effects of just ambient, everyday indoor lighting that we have just not naturally, because indoor lighting isn't technically natural, but the ambient lighting that we have that isn't UV, that isn't the sun, but the ones we have just indoors, our lamps, our overhead lighting, it produces free radicals in human fibroblast skin cells. And it makes you wonder just what would be the effects in vivo. So basically in this study, the ambient light that the cells were exposed to was equivalent to about 1 hour of sunlight exposure. But the interesting thing about this study was that when they performed an in vivo test, so a test on actual human skin, they found that a sunscreen, SPF 50 containing licorice root extract, the sunscreen formulation with the licorice extract actually help to reduce the formation of free radicals or reactive oxygen species in the skin, similar to that of unradiated cells, so cells that weren't exposed to that ambient blue visible light. In contrast, skin that was treated with just a run-of-the-mill SPF 50 sunscreen without the licorice extract, it didn't have the same reduction in free radical formation when exposed to that visible light for that 1 hour, that ambient visible light. So it shows that the addition of a potentially antioxidant rich ingredient like licorice extract, which can also help to reduce inflammation and redness in the skin. It goes to show that maybe formulations, sunscreen formulations that contain licorice extract may help to protect against the visible light as well and the potential free radical production from that visible light. Now, carotenoids, which are plant pigments derived from plants, things like carrots, for example, it gives the color to these antioxidant-rich plants and foods. They are actually found in the skin, in the superficial stratum corneum of the skin, and they are sort of our skin's antioxidant defense mechanism, if you will. So it helps to protect against the things like UV-induced free radical damage, for instance. It also helps to absorb wavelengths of visible light, but it is degraded. Our carotenoids in our skin are degraded to some extent from exposure to blue light, and this ultimately leads to ROS formation, or free radical formation. Now, in that same study that I mentioned previously, the application of the licorice root extract SPF sunscreen helped to reduce the risk of carotenoid depletion in the skin induced by the visible light, whereas the SPF 50 sunscreen without the licorice root extract showed no effect. So again, licorice root extract not only helps to reduce free radical formation, it may do so by helping to reduce the depletion of the carotenoids in our skin that is often depleted by the exposure to blue light as well as UV. Now, broader wavelengths of visible light and blue light can actually drive pigmentation or hyperpigmentation, especially in people who have darker skin tones. You're more prone to hyperpigmentation on the face and the neck generally because that's the majority of what your body is exposed to. Usually if you're covered up with clothing on your arms and your legs and the rest of your body, you generally don't have the hyperpigmentation, but if you have a darker skin type, you're more at risk of having pigmentation issues induced by visible light, particularly blue light, broader wavelengths of that blue light that you are exposed to in front of your computer, in front of your television, in front of your phone every single day, as well as just, your indoor ambient light. So what are some solutions? What can you do to protect yourself from the pro-pigmenting, potentially aging effects of visible light, particularly blue light from our computers and our smartphones and our electronics? There's actually a number of studies showing that iron oxides can protect against the pro-pigmenting effects of visible light. Iron oxides are found in abundance in tinted sunscreens. It's usually an inactive ingredient that helps to provide the tint, the color to tinted sunscreens. And that tint helps to, in addition to the zinc oxide to some extent, actually helps to provide a physical blocking agent to the skin that helps to prevent the visible light and the blue light from penetrating the skin. It basically just bounces right off. And application of tinted sunscreens, particularly tinted mineral sunscreens, not only helps to protect from blue light, but also UV. Again, the sun is another source of blue light that you have to think about. So we really have to think about just the entire spectrum of light that is coming to us every single day. Tinted sunscreens with the iron oxides can be an effective solution for many people. And I really like the Elta MD tinted mineral sunscreen. I think it's an SPF of 41. It's purely mineral, completely natural. It has a couple of antioxidants in there as well that may possibly help against the production of free radicals from the exposure of UV, maybe blue light, visible light. I'm not really sure exactly. There's not really a lot of studies in regard to those antioxidants, but the Elta MD is a fantastic, purely mineral tinted sunscreen with those iron oxides in it. There's also the Dermatology sunscreen, which is a combination sunscreen that contains zinc oxide as well as octinoxate, a UVB chemical filter, and it has that iron oxide in there to provide a universal tint to protect against the pro-pigmenting wavelengths of blue light. Also, the MD Solar Sciences purely mineral tinted sunscreen, which I'm going to review later on in this, probably during this week. is a good mineral sunscreen that's extremely moisturizing, and it provides a relatively good tint that I really like. And like I mentioned previously, the addition of licorice root extract to sunscreen formulations, as well as maybe potentially moisturizers, can help to protect against the free radical production induced by visible light and blue light. So finding a sunscreen with licorice root extract in it may be helpful. I know the Rain or Shine sunscreen by Jackson Lane has licorice root extract, and I think Eucerin is a sort of like a drugstore pharmacy sunscreen that also has, I think they also include licorice root extract in their formulations. I could be wrong. Just I'll leave a comment down below in the discussion if they do, and I'll leave a link to the product. Yeah, okay, so the Eucerin Photo Aging Control Sun Fluid with Hyaluronic Acid SPF 50, that's an international sunscreen, and it has things like Uvinol T150. It's a phenomenal chemical filter that isn't approved in the United States, but it's really good. That sunscreen actually has licorice root extract in it, so that may be so that holds potential. And I also found another study. There's a paucity of research out there, so it's kind of hard to really come to a definite conclusion of what will work, but there was another study that was conducted fairly recently or published fairly recently, and it showed that a night cream containing melatonin, which is a hormone produced by the pineal gland in the brain that helps you to fall asleep. It basically is produced at night when your light exposure goes down, but again, we're pretty much exposed to light during our entire waking day, so a lot of our melatonin is suppressed. But the night cream contained melatonin as well as carnosine, which is I think it's a dipeptide that contains 2 amino acids, and that's produced in the brain as well. And it also contained curry extract in it, which is a potential antioxidant source. But they found that the application of this night cream every night for a certain number of days, I can't remember what it was, but I'm actually looking at my notes right now. I can't remember how long they applied the night cream. So they did it once nightly for 12 weeks, and they found that there was a significant reduction in the formation of free radicals or reactive oxygen species induced by blue light. So they found that the combination of these 3 ingredients significantly reduced the effects of free radical damage induced by the blue light, which is fairly promising. Now, the limitation to this study is that it was funded by the company who makes this product. I think it's the Emitted Astenuceuticals. It's the Insenceutics. I don't know how to say that. Age reverse night cream, and it clocks in over $100. I think it's like $140. So you have to kind of take that study with a grain of salt. I mean, I'm sure it was reviewed by an independent review board and data committee, but you definitely have to look at those conflict of interest just to make sure you're shopping wisely. Speaking of shopping wisely, I got the Mudmasky blue light protection mask that I mentioned earlier in this video. I got this from my sister, who got it in her BoxyCharm box. And I think this comes around $59, $60 for this 2 fluid ounce bottle. This also has carnosine in it, which, if you remember back to that study I mentioned, also had carnosine. The company that produces this, Mudmasky, says that the carnosine helps to fight against blue light damage from your laptop, your smartphone, television, LED lights, as well as your computer screen. I personally believe this is a gimmick, only because I couldn't find a lot of studies showing that this helps to really conclusively protect against blue light. It also has fragrance in here and some alcohols, which may potentially be drying for some people. Yeah, I think it's just a fragranced, high-priced moisturizer that, again, may potentially, because we only have like one study that I could find, provide protection against blue light. But it's just your basic moisturizer. I do like the moisturizing capabilities of it, but whether or not it protects against blue light, I can't really say for sure, because again, we don't really have a lot of conclusive studies on this. But yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and use this up as a moisturizer, even though it has fragrance in it, just off and on. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned more about blue light and the effects that it has on the skin. Later on, I will provide future videos about potential solutions to blue light exposure, as well as hyperpigmentation. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Definitely stick around for future videos. Hit the subscribe button down below, and I will see you next time.